You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday of getting back at you.
We're living in a very dangerous time right now, and liberalism has lost their cotton-picking mind.
The Trump folks, if they found out how we knew what we knew about the Trump staff dealing with Russians, that they would try to compromise those sources and methods.
Nobody ever said anything about resisting Obama. They went at him on legitimate arguments.
I really do believe that much of what you saw coming out of Trump's mouth was a play from Putin's playbook.
Welcome to the Abolitionists Roundtable, your all-access pass to exposing fake news, the resistance, and Barack Obama's shadow government undermining American progress. Be a part of the conversation at 734-822-1600. And now, your all-American hosts, Del Marsh and Phil Stargell.
And good morning. This is the Abolitionist Roundtable of Michigan, and this is your co-host, Phil Stargell, and I'm sitting in for the on assignment Del Marsh, and we may get a call from him this morning. But after last week's call, I'm sure everybody will have a little bit of a little patience, and Del Marsh will be back in that seat over there, and we will continue. But in the meantime, I will continue, and we will get through this with Del Marsh, and we'll have him back with his hard-hitting ideas and analysis. So first of all, this morning, I'd like to start off by saying we hear a lot about free speech these days, and I'm here to say to you that freedom of speech in this country is almost dead. I mean, there is freedom of speech for protected individuals, special individuals, and they exercise it. Some of the things that have been said, I just don't understand how people can do it. And but again, I have to say that there is freedom of speech for special people, for protected people, and one of these days we're gonna get to the real issue of how this got to where it is, and it's coming about. I mean, we're finally seeing some unbiased reporting on the part of the media in this country. It's very, very, very spotty and very coming out in drips and drabs and drops, and but we are getting to some of the truth surrounding the election of 2016, and the thing that amazes me is how the winner of the election ends up being investigated. I'll never understand that. And so when they talk about draining the swamp, that now you see why members of both parties are really scurrying to find a crack or a door or anything to hide under, because when they talk about draining the swamp, everybody is a victim of that whirlpool going down the drain if they are on the wrong side of the issue, if they are guilty of being in violation of the nation's laws. See, a lot of people want to say that that Donald Trump doesn't have any Republican values. He doesn't have any democratic values of a democracy and all of that. Well, I say that's rubbish. I think that he may not be a conservative. He may not be a former Republican, but he is aware of and in compliance, and wants to be in compliance with the laws of this country. And that starts with the Constitution. So if he is an adherent of the Constitution, then I will give him as much leeway as possible, because he's on the right track of doing what the only thing that will save this country, and that is the Constitution, the United States Constitution. That is the real, true law of the land. We hear these people get a ruling favorable from the Supreme Court, and they jump up and holler, that's the law of the land. No, it is not. That is a special feature of the law of the land that wants to include everybody, but they have taken it too far, and they now exclude people because of past practices of, you guessed it, the Democrat Party. They abused that Constitution, and they misused the rights of people until they were able to get enough power where they could challenge the Republican Party for the power structure of this country. And they have used it to their effect, and sadly, my own black brothers have done the work of the Democrat Party to keep this country from protecting the rights of every citizen. They only protect the rights of the people that will keep them in power, and you see it every day. So whenever anybody tells you that they have the right to say certain things, remember one thing: it's a two-edged sword, and the Democrats have been able to file the edge off of the sword that swings in the direction of the Republican Party. That blade is dull as a butter knife. So what we have to do is recognize that the Democrats have always been able to manipulate the country with the aid of the press, and those two things are now being taken at a little bit of in a bit of a different direction, because the truth is getting out, and the truth is not pretty when it comes to people that are power mad like the Democrat Party is. And first of all, I want to give you an example of what I mean by people there's a discrepancy in the power structure of what people can say and how they can exercise their freedom of speech. Derek, would you, first of all, put the Maxine Waters tape on?
Wow, what a moving evening this is. I am sitting here listening, watching, absorbing, thinking about Ali, even though I never met him. And with this kind of inspiration, I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Now, I would just like for anybody out there listening this morning to imagine if any person that is a Republican lawmaker or judge or any high-profile person were to say that about the past president, Barack Obama. Could you imagine what would be said if he said that? I think that the first thing would happen is that he would have an escort out of the building with the Secret Service. Secondly, the feedback from the Black Caucus, which Maxine Waters is a member of, that blowback from the Black Caucus would be going all year long until somebody were to make that person pay for saying what he just said, she just said. But instead of that, she says that she didn't mean any harm, and she was a 72-year-old, a 79-year-old grandmother, and now she wants to fall back on the sympathy, the I'm just a harmless female grandmother, and throw that out the window, the animosity and the hatred that came from her thoughts. I mean, she is the one that has been carrying the torch about impeaching this man, and they have used the fact that there is a law that demands, not asks, but demands that the person that would be in line to serve as president of the United States be a natural-born citizen. And when anybody questioned the papers that were submitted to prove that about Barack Obama, they were saying that they just didn't want to see a black man become the president of the United States. And they accused President Trump, then candidate Trump, of being a racist because he insisted that the congressional committee that makes up the credentials committee of the United States House of Representatives demand to see a legitimate copy of his birth certificate, and I mean, they just wanted to assume that was out of hate, not out of the respect for the law, but out of hate. And now they branded this man a racist and a white supremacist. These people have no idea what white supremacy means. They have no idea what racist means. And that's why I keep telling you and reading from some of the history that they are only too eager to erase, like the statues and monuments that they want to come in and like the Taliban, tear these things down. They need to be there so people can understand what these people said and what they did. More importantly, what they did. And find out when these people throw around that word white supremacist, there's never been any documented or any written tribute to racism in any of the papers of the platforms of all of the presidents that went before us since the Republican Party was formed. They were the party of anti-slavery. They were the party of anti-racist. They were the party of anti-white supremacy. And they said it in their documents. Whereas the Democrat parties said that they were the party of white supremacists. The party of white supremacists. That's what they said in their documents. And so that's why I get so angry when I hear people protect these people and say that they were harmless and they didn't mean anything. I have some friends that I consider to be some of the best people in the world, that because they disagree with the policies of the Democrat Party, they are routinely called racist and white supremacists. And more importantly, a lot of people that are black Americans that are in the Republican Party seem indifferent to that. They seem to believe that it is all right for the Democrats to call different people racist and white supremacists because they feel that's a intramural dispute between white people. And they think, well, I don't have a dog in that fight. But then every chance that you get to defend what needs to be defended, they will say that you're doing it because you are a doormat for the white supremacists in the Republican Party. I mean, they say some pretty harsh things about black Americans that are conservative, and I've been at the forefront of it. And but I can take it because I can dish it out. But the point is that we have got to put a stop to this. It has to be a time when we say that no more are we going to allow the Democrats to just devastate people because they disagree with them, to just tear people down, to call them the worst names that anybody could call anybody. And our young people hear this and just apply it to people because they represent a political party. And so that's why, I keep harping on this while I have the opportunity, and I will keep harping on it until I don't have this opportunity. But I think that it's time that we recognize what is going on and we speak out against it. You got that Flake, Jeff Flake, saying that his conscience and all of this nonsense. Well, I believe he's just a sore loser, and he wants to take a shot out the door because he is going to lose that election if he runs. But there's no excuse for John McCain. There's no excuse for George Bush to come up and take a shot at President Trump, because there's a difference in agreement about how President Trump come to the forefront. But I believe in my heart that Donald Trump thinks like myself and has said he's tired of it, and he's had it with people routinely calling him names like they do and get away with it. And that's why you see him defend himself. People tell him he shouldn't be tweeting and he shouldn't stand up for his principles, when people like Maisha Johnson, the widow of the fallen soldier in Niger. And I just want you to hear the interview that she did, a portion of that interview with George Stephanopoulos. And if you play that, Derek, please.
And I also know you have a lot of questions about what happened.
Yes.
In Niger.
Yes.
What's at the top of your mind?
The questions that I have that I need answered is, I want to know why it took them 48 hours to find my husband. Why couldn't I see my husband? Every time I asked to see my husband, they wouldn't let me.
What did they tell you?
They'll tell me that he's in a severe rap, like I won't be able to see him. I need to see him so I will know that that is my husband. I don't know nothing. They won't show me a finger, a hand. I know my husband's body from head to toe, and they won't let me see anything. I don't know what's in that box. It could be empty for all I know, but I need to see my husband. I haven't seen him since he came home.
And what have they told you about what happened in Africa?
I really don't know the answers to that one neither, because when they came to my house, they just told me that it was a massive gunfire, and my husband, as of October 4th, was missing. They didn't know his whereabouts. They didn't know where he was or where to find him. And a couple of days later is when they told me that he went from missing to killed in action. I don't know how he got killed, where he got killed, or anything. I don't know that part. They never told me, and that's what I've been trying to find out since day one, since October 4th.
Are you confident you're going to get the answers you need?
If I keep pushing for him, I will.
And they just say they don't know?
They won't tell me. They won't tell me anything. I don't know anything.
Okay, that is, for me, very, very hard to listen to. And it's hard to respond to that, and I'm sure that that's what you saw from the White House. But that's why General Kelly did what he did. He came out and he explained the procedure of putting icing the soldiers down and sending them to Dover. To Germany, and then into Dover, and the process. And he explained also that he suggested that President Trump not make that phone call, because in preparation for that phone call, I'm sure that Maisha Johnson's concerns were conveyed to the president, and then General Kelly recommended that he not make that call, and he did it anyway. And then we get the Congresswoman said some pretty rough stuff about President Trump being a sick man and things like that. Can you imagine what the president thought when he heard that? I mean, that is some pretty rough stuff. So I just want to put across to you that when I saw this particular clip, I thought, well, President Trump probably got a little impatient with the response from Maisha Johnson, and he said, well, that's what he signed up. He was the one that signed up. He knew what he was getting into, and I don't know if they wanted to bring that out, but they did. General Kelly did explain to you what the line of explanation was, so you did get that understanding that that was the message, and I believe it was out of frustration for a pretty much disrespectful exchange between Ms. Johnson and the president. I think that when you go to questioning why the soldier was missing for a couple of days and stuff like that, I can see where the president might have been a little bit distracted because of the fact that this is some of the things that happen when people think that things are done because out of hatred or out of racism, and things said that shouldn't be said. I'm going to continue with this after the break. If you'd like to join the conversation, the number is 734-822-1600. We'll be back after these messages.
You're listening to the Abolitionists Roundtable with your hosts, Del and Phil. They're exposing the left's underground resistance while leading the charge in the fight for liberty. Join the conversation at 734-822-1600.
Hello, I am Milt, and this is Logically Speaking Uncensored. It's time the Democrat Party disband. The list of evil deeds inflicted upon the nation by the Democrat Party are legendary, and their diabolical policies and political agendas would make the rulers of darkness mentioned in Ephesians 6 and 12 very proud. From their incubation as loyal allies of England and collaboration traitors in opposition to the foundational values of guaranteed freedoms and liberties, many collaborators known as loyalists, after the defeat of England by George Washington and the Revolutionary Army, migrated to the Upper East Coast, regrouped, and around 1828 transformed themselves into a political entity called the Democrat Party. But their mission of opposition to the United States, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution, which make the nation great, remained unchanged. Today, most of the nation's social upheavals, subversive activities, and institutional dysfunctionalities of class warfare are connected to the protocols of the Democrat Party. The turmoil engendered in academia, neighborhoods, organizations, and individuals are the results of the Democrats' divisional enclaves of socialism and contrived superficial grievances of envy and hatred. Democrat ideology has shattered families and national unity and decimated the military with fascist dictates and perverted moralities. And killing of babies by abortions, anarchy, and racial animus is acceptable. And they publicly endorse aiding and abetting unlawful sanctuary cities for illegal immigrants, while they viciously attack unjustly Christian and Judeo religiosity. In rationalizing restoring relationships with Cuba, President Obama said, if something hasn't worked for 50 years, it's time for a change. For over 190 years, the Democrat Party has been unworkable and a national disaster. If Obama is correct, it's time to change Democrat narratives into truth and expose their evil deeds. If one with an ounce of objective honesty research the unrevised history of the Democrat Party, they will find that the entire party is a Trojan horse with an insatiable appetite, waiting to devour the nation from within. If we, the people of the United States, are to survive as one nation under God, the Democrat Party transgressions must be revealed. I know my wishes are inconsistent with the reality of the intractable laws of evildoers, but if human decency and truth is a virtue, then the Democrat Party collectively should admit their transgressions, past and present, pay reparations for supporting slavery, apologize and repent by doing what is right, disband. I am Milt, logically speaking, uncensored, saying, think about it.
Well, thanks again for a great commentary. That's Milt Harris, and man, he tells it like it is. Okay, I'm going to get back to the the president being disrespected. I mean, that's basically what has been going on, and it's all for one particular reason. And Maxine Waters spelled it out. You know, they want to try to get this man out of office before he has the opportunity to drain this swamp, this monstrous swamp that we've created in Washington. But in the meantime, I'm gonna go to the phone lines right quick, and we got Joe from Wyandotte on line one. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. Yeah, I'm up today to be able to listen and call in. You got another good show going as usual.
Welcome to the early morning show. I'm glad.
For people who don't know me, I'm normally definitely asleep at this time because my health issues. I have to sleep a lot, but every once in a while I'll end up with insomnia and I'm up all night, so I get to tune into your show. But I wasn't calling about my health, of course. I was calling because I need your considered opinion on something. Something is worrying me. Something is making me somewhat very angry if it's the case. Last week on the show, The Drift with Ed and Gary, I brought up a Detroit News article that talked about how Sabinow has raised like $7 million. Of course, a lot of that out-of-state money.
Yeah.
And PACs and lobbyist money.
And probably half of it from Hollywood.
Yeah, no doubt a lot of it. But for some reason, John James and Bob Young have only raised a couple $100,000 apiece. And it worries me that it could have something to do with the fact that they're black.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to have your reaction to that. It would make me angry if that's the case. And I don't want to believe that, but I wanted to get your considered opinion.
Well, yeah, because there are two big reasons. The Democrat Party does not back any black person or won't allow any money to go to any black person that doesn't, ride the back of the donkey.
Yeah, but what is the excuse of Republicans not supporting these? Bob Young is undisputably proven conservative and constitutionalist. There could be no better candidate.
No, there couldn't. And of course, we have some people in strategic parts of the Republican Party that are, and you see them coming out all the time. You see them like Flake and Corker and McCain and on and on and on. George Bush, he comes out and tells you just exactly what he thinks about the president, the current president. What he's telling you is that he doesn't like the direction that he's going because of the alliance with the black and the brown alliance that the Democrats have formed. He's for that because he believes that illegal immigration is no different than anything else. The Democrats are importing people into this country to maintain a margin in the polls. And everything they do is to skew the polls in the direction of the Democrats so they can vote people in and make them lifetime Democrats. And they care nothing about the law.
Yeah, that is indisputable. But again, what does that have to do with Republicans needing to get off their butts? The only other thing that I can think of is that there's a lot of delusional people out there who really thought Robert Ritchie, Kid Rock, was going to come on and create a celebrity cult and save them and spend his millions to win the seat. Do you think that could have anything to do with it? And maybe people will get off their hindsides now and contribute to Bob Young like they need to? He needs money now.
The contributions that make a Senate race to give you that kind of money those people are mercenaries. Most of those people that do this kind of thing, they're looking mainly for what they consider to be the winner. And they want something from that winner. And the way they get it is to put money. They don't believe Bob Young or the other, what's his name?
John James.
John James are viable candidates. And they don't think that if they put their money up, that they will survive the cut. So they feel that they are backing a losing race. So
I think that's true of the big money donors. A lot of them are trying to wait to see if somebody like dim bulb Fred Upton will get in the race, and he would get slaughtered just like Hoekstra did.
Yeah.
But they would back that losing horse over somebody who was qualified and would bury Debbie Stabenow in a debate.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is that that I'm hopeful, and I sincerely believe that the effort to drain the swamp has caught on, and I believe that Bob Young is going to be just fine.
Yeah. Well, Bob Young provides a great duplicity.
Yeah.
And normally you would say that and it sounds like a negative thing, but in this case he is on Trump's short list to become a Supreme Court justice. He's not an anti-Trump guy, but yet he's not so far into the Trump camp that he would alienate the other side of the party, who's not necessarily pro-Trump, and or alienate independents, which is what we're going to need.
Well, I'm hoping that that grassroots are going to make our candidate rise. I don't think that there's enough money on the other side that can counteract this movement that we see it's possible, and we just have to keep on at it. We gotta get out there and protect and fight for principles, and I think that we can do this. I think we can put him over just like we can put over Pat Colbeck. I think we can do it, but we have to go the unconventional way. And the grassroots have to do it, and we've shown that we can.
Absolutely, but it does still take some money.
Take some money, no doubt.
It's not going to take $25 million, but you still need a couple million to be able to get the message out. And the grassroots needs to help fund Bob Young now, so that he is more attractive to bigger money donors later.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like I said, but I do believe he'll be fine because I think that the movement is behind him.
I'd like to think so. We need some kind of a poll to take place now that Kid Rock has officially told people who were too stupid to grasp the fact that it was a joke that he was running before, that it is indeed just a joke.
Yeah.
It was just a PR stunt.
Well, the thing
most thinking people knew that, but for some reason there was a lot of delusional people out there who didn't get it.
Well, we just have to keep at it, and we have to re-excite the grassroots like we did a couple of years ago. We did it. We put people in place to have us right where we are right today. I think those people are still there. We just have to get out and get the word to them.
Hopefully they don't go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Otherwise the state goes blue again, and we're right back where we were we won't only lose the Senate seat, we could lose the state and get another Granholm in the form of Whitmer.
Yeah, true that. Okay, Joe, appreciate you getting up with me this morning. Thanks a lot for your call.
Well, you have a great one. Love you guys. Take care.
Thank you. I love you.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye now. We're going to go to line 2, and that is Gary from Hazel Park. Good morning, Gary.
Hey, good morning. Hey, Joe, he's a good guy and everything, but we have been conditioned to think in a binary way, which is Republican and Democrat.
Yeah.
Democrat, Republican. We got to forget that. It isn't like that. It hasn't been for a long time. It's Patriot versus Marxist.
Yes.
And the Marxists are in the Republican Party all over the place.
Yes,
the globalists are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't separate the party or the battle between Republican and Democrat. That's over. That's been over for decades now, because every previous president has advanced the goal of the globalists since about Eisenhower.
Yes.
So just forget all that, Joe, and fight for the guy you like. Don't look at his R. Don't look at nothing like that. Just look at what he's doing, what he stands for.
But you
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. You do understand his concern about the big gap between the funding on the part of James and Young. I mean, it is massive, you know. But it can be proven that it doesn't need money. It's been proven. It's you've seen that in the
South Carolina.
South Carolina, yeah, with you know, the former Chief Justice, and so, you know, these things are possible, but we have a movement. We just have to reignite it. And
that's right. And we're not going to win every battle either.
Right. No.
But it'd be really nice to get rid of Granholm. Of course it would.
Oh yeah.
But we can't. We have to be realistic. And the money, of course, is a big issue. That's how they control their power. They control the money. They control the power.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, you know, we have got to get the truth out. See, that truth hurts the Democrats more so than anything, because they are merchants of disinformation, misinformation, and flat out slander. You know, I mean, you see what they've done to President Trump. I mean, everything they do is about making this man the devil incarnate. And
that's right.
And we have got to not allow that kind of thing. I mean, for George Bush to come out and say what he said against President Trump is outrageous. And it ought to be in every person that believes in this form of government that we have, and not that one world government nonsense that the Bush family's been pushing for years. And if you believe in that, you've got to reject that, and not only reject it, you got to speak out against it. They say that they had to speak out against Trump. What is Trump trying to do that they consider so bad? Well, you know what he's trying to do? He's trying to live up to the law that is in place in this country. Live up to the laws on immigration. Live up to the laws on how we deal with foreign relations, how we deal with these countries, that when a president signs an agreement, we get the almost said this wrong thing. We get the short end of the deal.
All that can be summed up with one word, and it's called sovereignty.
Yes, yes, and we have got to make sure that lawmakers make law, and judges only affirm those laws and stop writing laws in the courts. We've got to do that.
The system has become so corrupt, it's unrecognizable.
Yes, it is.
Every institution has been corrupted by the left. And for us to fight back, which we are, it's going to take decades for us to fix it.
Yes.
There's no question about that. But we can never give up, never surrender, and we have to fight every day until they put us in the ground.
And Gary, you need to be like me. We got to get out there and say those words. We've got to make sure that every grassroots voter understands what we're trying to do, and get off of this idea that just because somebody disagrees with the Democrat Party, that they're into it because of race. It is not about race. It's about saving this country.
That's right. And the first thing you said this morning was freedom of speech is almost dead.
Yes, it is.
That's why it's almost dead. They want to kill it so they don't have an opposition to stand up against them. And that's what we are. We're the opposition against tyranny.
Thank you very much, Gary. I appreciate your call this morning. I got one more, and I want to clear them lines. All right.
Later, Phil.
All right. Talk to you later. And we're going to go to, hey, Janice, how you doing this morning? Janice Daniels, Mayor of the People.
Good morning, Phil. I'm doing great. I'm enjoying listening to your show. I'd like to throw my 2 cents in about this Senate race the primary race between Bob Young and this John James.
Yes.
I love Bob Young. I've watched him. I've seen him. I've heard him. I absolutely love him. But I also have heard some real good things about this John James,
Me too.
military background,
Yeah.
et cetera. So either one of them would be fine, honorable candidates for the Republican general election against Debbie Stabenow. My problem is that I have great disdain, as you know, for the establishment swamp monsters in both parties.
Yes.
And so I would hesitate to spend my money in a primary. I would be full board ahead if either one of them, gentlemen, won the primary election.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Republican Party needs to learn some strategies. Why are these two men running against each other?
Yes,
Couldn't
exactly.
they, men of goodwill, get together and come upon which one they think would be the best for the frontline position? Because you know there's a lot of other positions within a Senate candidacy or a Senate legislative position that the other one could be of great help to the one that wins. So we waste all our money in a primary election, and then there's no money for the general. I think we need to save our money for the general election, and either one of those men would be just fine with me.
Yeah, I agree with that, but it's going to be very, very hard to make that decision. Between the two of them, both of them are going to assume and really believe that they are the better candidate, and so that's going to be a very hard, separation. How do you separate? I mean, that has to be an agreement, And,
well, yeah, but the fact remains either one would be fine, and quite frankly, I think it's up to those two men.
Yeah.
I don't want to see each of them tearing each other apart,
right,
so that they give the true opposition, the Democrat candidate, a run for the money because they've given her so much meat to use against them.
Exactly.
Let's wise up and somehow figure out a way to only run one Republican in the primary.
Yeah.
That way we can save our money for the general election when we really, really need it.
Yeah, but how do we do that? I mean, that's the smoke-filled room syndrome, and that's
not necessarily. I mean, we're talking about men of goodwill. We're not talking about swamp monsters. We're not talking about the critters that crawl out of the swamp. We're talking about honorable men, and maybe, just maybe, we could somehow figure out a way to get together and run this as a unified party.
Well, it would need to be, but this is a very, very promising year. I
agree.
There is some things that are possible, and if we could get that type of unity, my goodness, we could do some really extraordinary things. Because like the Democrats are just rubbing their hands, thinking, they're in disarray. Yeah, and we ought to be, and you ought to be, because you're putting up very, very incompetent people. The only reason that they're there is because of, guess what? Identity politics. That's the only reason. Can
you imagine there's nobody running against Debbie Stabenow in a primary? I mean, isn't there another Democrat that thinks they might be a little bit better than her?
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost laughable. But that's what they do, and that's how they save their money for the general election.
And you see how that's going with the mayor's race. You see that how totally inadequate they have as opposition to each other. Okay, folks.
And that's right. And God bless Patrick Colbeck, and I'm fully on board supporting him for governor.
Me too. And we are going to have it. We're going to have a ball getting him in there. Watch it.
I hope so. Thanks, Phil.
Yep, thank you for calling. And, folks, we will see you next week and then with another hard-hitting program. The Abolitionist Roundtable invites the WAAM TALK1600 listeners to continue the roundtable discussions by mailing correspondence to Art of Michigan, Post Office Box 135, Garden City, Michigan 48135.
Or follow Phil and Del at artofmichigan.com. You can also send emails to artofmichigan@hotmail.com. And most of all, continue to listen every Saturday and tell a friend.